Hey everybody! So now we are going to practice placing circles as well as rectangles onto the screen and learn what an SVG is. So here we have our previous work. I'm going to go ahead and delete all of it so we can start with a completely blank page. Great! So now let's try to append a circle onto our body, onto the page. So we see here an example of a bunch of circles in a D3 visualization, and we see that if we inspect one of these, see that it's actually a circle HTML element. Okay, cool. Let's try to do that. So let's go back to our playground and do D3.selectBody. So we'll select the body and save that into a constant, let's say. And then onto the body, let's append a circle. Great. Let's give that a shot. Here, so we see the circle is on here, but we can't see it. Okay, let's give it attributes to make it visible. So let's do dot, let's say dot, I don't know, let's take a look at this. Looks like we have R for radius and style fill for the color of the circle. So let's go ahead and try to give it a radius. So we'll give it an attribute. The radius will be, let's say, 15. Okay, so that was applied, but we still can't see the circle. Let's try to give it a fill. So style fill of, let's say, green. Still doesn't appear. Let's try to give it a position. So I'll explain this more later, but we can do CX and CY to give it a position. Let's see if we have that example here. No, we don't. Okay, so let's just try to apply that directly. So we'll have CX and CY of, let's say, 100 and 100. So it's still on the page, but it's not doing anything. And so the reason we have to that we're not seeing it is we need to append this circle to what's called an SVG. So let's scroll up here. We'll see that in this visualization by Mike Bostock, the infamous Mike Bostock, we have an SVG. What does it look like? So an SVG is sort of like a canvas on which we can paint circles, rectangles, and other D3 elements. And let's look at what that's like. So if we do SVG here in Google, we'll see that SVG stands for Scalable Vector Graphics. So this is a bigger concept, and the element itself is an application of that concept. So the SVG element is used to embed an SVG fragment inside something like an HTML document. It has its own viewport and its own coordinate system. So let's go ahead and give that a shot. So we'll append an SVG first to the body. So SVG equals the body.append SVG. And then to the SVG, we'll append a circle. Let's see if that works. There it is. We have our first circle. Great. So next step, let's try to amend this circle and maybe give it a different position. So let's say that we'll create its fill and make it red. Looks like that works. Let's make its radius a little bit bigger. So maybe 30. That works. Let's give it a style where it has a stroke, which is basically its border of black. Okay, that's cool. Kind of hard to see though, so let's give it a stroke width of like 3. Okay, it's a little bit better. Now, another thing we can do is we can change its position as well. Let's play around with that. So CX of 300. Oh, interesting. Why is it cut in half? So first of all, let me explain what these numbers mean. So let's go back to 100. Why is this 300 and why is this 100? Well, it's very similar to a Cartesian graph that you might remember in any math class. Something like this, where the point 2, 3 is here, negative 3, 1 is here, where everything sort of began at the bottom left. And if you were to increase the x and y coordinates, you moved towards the top right? So it started at the bottom left. And if you go negative, you sort of go off the screen. So if you think of this as your screen, everything started at the bottom left. In this case, everything starts from the top left. So this is 0, 0. Let's give that a stab. 0, and the 100 here, also 0. There we go. So the circle is on the top left. And then whenever we increase the x, it'll move towards the right. And when we increase the Y, it'll move down. Wow, so it disappeared. Where did it go? Let's take a look. In this case, we'll open the SVG and see that the circle is there, and the SVG is there, but the circle is off the SVG. This is the same reason that we saw the circle cut in half when we moved it to the right earlier. So that just like when you paint onto a canvas, you need the paint to actually make it on the canvas to see anything. Same thing here. So let's go ahead and give the SVG a width and a height of some sort. So we'll give it an attribute, a width of, let's say, 100%, and then a height of, let's say, 1,000 pixels. Now we should see the circle again. There it is. Great. Now we can transition these properties. So let's say we wanted the fill to apply gradually. We'll do dot transition just like we did before, and let's see what that looks like. There it is. We can give that a duration too. So let's say we want to go over 2,000 milliseconds or 2 seconds. It'll happen slowly from the default to black. Let's transition other properties. So let's transition, for example, the radius. In this case, we have to make the radius style, which is actually preferable. There we go. The radius gradually gets applied. So to differentiate that, the attribute will be, like I described in the previous video, one of these, whereas the style will be CSS selector and property. So in this case, when we're making this fill red, we'll see that it's included in the style. Both work in this case, but in order to transition, you need to use style. Mike Bostock actually prefers style, so that's a good habit to have. Great, now let's try to transition the CX. So in this case, we want it to have an initial position, and then let's transition it to a different position. So let's do an X of 200 and a Y of 100 and see what that looks like. There we go. So the circle starts here and then moves here. Okay, cool. Let's make another circle. So let's go ahead and make, save that as a constant circle 1 and make another circle that we'll save as constant circle 2. In this case, let's give it, let's say yellow and green, and let's reverse its position. So it's going to start at 200, 100, and move to 100, 200. There we go. Why does the green circle go over the red circle? It's just like paint on a canvas. Whichever one is painted second gets painted over the other one. So you see here green is painted second, so it appears over the red circle. Great. Now let's select all of these circles. Const, we'll do SVG and select all circles on the SVG. So we'll do const circles equals svg.selectAllCircle, and I give them all a similar property. So let's go ahead and override their borders and give them all a stroke of, let's say, orange. So this is going to select all circles on the SVG and apply these properties to it. And in this case, overriding previous strokes, yellow and black. There we go. So now they're orange. Very cool. Lastly, you can apply many more things to, you can apply all kinds of objects, paint all kinds of objects onto an SVG. I demonstrated circles, but you can also do, another example is a rectangle. So SVG, let's do .append rect. We'll see it first appear on the page here, but we're not able to see it here because it's not given a height or a width. So let's go ahead and give it an attribute, height of, let's say, 100, and the width of 100. Again, it's, well, there we go. It's going to appear, and we can change its position. The way we do that with a rectangle is we give it a style, and it's basically a transform. Transform can allow you to move an element, an object, in many different ways, but one of them is to just translate its position, and it'll take an x and y coordinate, similar to how we did cx and cy. So in this case, let's translate it to 100, 100, and see what that looks like. I think that might be an attribute. Yep, there we go. So we have that square, that rectangle a little bit further, and we can, of course, change its attributes, play around with it. I think it could also take a fill. Let's give that a shot. So I'll copy one of these fills and bring it down here. A fill of, let's say, purple. Wonderful.
Now, just to note, this transform translate property can be applied to circles as well. So instead of using cx and cy here and cx and cy here from 200 to 100 to 100 to 200, I'm going to replace that with the method we just learned. So this is 100, 200, and then same idea up here. I'll delete this and replace it with this 200 to 100. And we'll see that that does the same thing that the CX CY did. There we go. Cool. Thanks for watching.